Today, I'm not playing no games. I'm on trial, not other artists, not other brands. Me. So, what does that mean? Well, we've been doing all this talking about branding, and if I haven't improved, well, we got some trouble. We got a problem, a real problem. So, with no further ado, on today's episode of the podcast, I'm going to let you guys know which one I would choose between A or B. Here in today's episode of Designing Last. My best bet, be sincere. My best bet, be sincere.
Best that I can do. Yeah.
Tell truth.
Yeah.
Designing last. Designing in your face. Designing last. Designing in your face. Don't know what to design today, but there's just one thing I know for sure. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Designing Last. Hey, we have been on this topic for a while now, talking to you all about the album artwork that gets played compared to the album artwork that gets, I don't know, delayed response. But whatever it is, it's not getting played, that's for sure. And I want to use my own work as an example. So, with no further ado, I just want to go ahead and ask, when you see my first my first single compared to B, my new single, which one would you play just based off of the cover alone? Which one's getting the click? Now, I personally can tell you right off the bat, there's a difference between both songs, of course, but even in the direction of the artwork itself that represents the songs, there was a different, execution that went into the process of coming up with this concept. So let me break that down to you a little bit more so you can understand why I think when it comes down to today's episode of the podcast, I choose between A or B and why I chose those for different reasons. Now, this is your time to just pause and stop and say, hey, pick a side. Any side. No essays, just I want to see. Which one are you going with? Okay. Well, first and foremost, like off of first impression, when I look at both A and B, I get a different feeling based off of each one. The feeling that I get from A is actually differently from the feeling that I get when I look at the cover art for B. Now, the cover art for A, that's Deft. Cover art for B, Mind Blown, which is out now when it comes to showing you the difference in the energy visually. Like imagine that a lyric video that vividly expresses exactly what the song is about. I mean, I know a lot of times nowadays, you don't want to be so uh, literal a lot of times when it comes to our art, but when it makes sense, it makes sense. So when it comes down to the first impression of what I'm seeing when it comes to these two artworks, my first impression is for That's Death, I'm getting this nice little summer vibe of like, I don't know what's around, what's up, what's on the horizon, but it's definitely something that I want to stick around to see what's going to happen. Compared to B, Mind Blown, I have a first impression, and when I see this, that makes me want to stop and say, there's something more that's going on here, and I want to know more about the story. Pulls me in. I don't know if it's the composition 100%, or is it just the overall messaging when it comes to the blurriness of the figure in the foreground, and then the background being more clear, but you're still wondering what it is that's going on. I think that has to do with something with it. It drives my curiosity. It definitely does. And I think those are all important things you need to think about when it comes to designing your own album artwork or your own cover art when it comes to singles, as you see both that's Death A and and uh my new single, Mind Blown, you know, figure B. And I say that because, man, we often figure that, yes, of course, there has to be s- a a rhyme to the reason for why the artist chose the direction that they chose and how they got to where they got to. But here at Death, we don't only just show you the outcome, we also show you the process within it. So I think when you see the lyric video, you'll see the steps in the process of how it came to be that makes it so much unique and different as opposed to just saying
It's fire. Like, it's really, really good. I've been waiting so long, you don't know, coming from a place, broken home. Close your mouth, move it along, look elsewhere, cover south, don't go, not like that, take 'em back, 86, catch up, food biz taught me that, if you wanna eat good, stay off the hood, focus strong, I've been waiting so long, you don't know, I've been waiting so long. I've been waiting so long. I've been waiting so long. I've been waiting so long, you don't know, coming from empty head, sick living, paint thin, filled with lead, not seen yet misled, youth is true, so I play, give them hope, don't choke, just smile, tell them no, if they wonder, feeds my hunger, can't wait no further, I've been waiting so long, you don't know, coming from, I've been waiting so long, I've been waiting so long, I've been waiting so long. Man, I got your message loud and clear, bro. What are those you're wearing, though? Come on, man. Can't have you out here looking like that, bro. Seriously, like, what are you wearing? Don't even worry about it. I'm glad you came to the merchandise shop. Don't even answer that question. Hey, by the way, what size do you wear? Okay. Well, hey, in order to be part of this crew, man, like, you gotta be a man of multiple different hats. Not everybody can wear these. Well, I guess you can. I lied. Anybody can wear it. Literally. Especially if you just go onto our website.
It is, and that's what it is. Like you get the chance to see it in real time and see the progression of how it was made, why it was made, and what makes it different than any other song. Uh, I one, I'm the type of artist that my art reflects myself and the people who I represent. People like myself, even though we come from uh, and I speak of the community, the deaf community as a whole. We come from all different white walks of life, a large background of different individuals who are different stages within their own careers. We notice that we still are all connected, and we have um, a a similar connection that is unstoppable as far as I can say. Like when you have the people who see your vision and are part of that movement, it just makes the complete vision and the complete story that much more captivating and more genuine because it's no longer about the individual artist. It's now about you seeing yourself within that artist, you know? And that's what translates the difference between, just an artist who just makes music say, I want to make the hottest song because I want to be popular, or just doing something because they think that's what other people want to hear. I don't do that as an artist. I literally don't do work that does not justify the means for why it's being done. Like I don't just do things just randomly because I feel like I can, even though I can. Like there's plenty of things out here that catch my eye and gives me inspiration for all kinds of projects. But at the end of the day, I am very diligent about the brand and the bigger picture. And if it doesn't make sense, then you know how they say it don't make dollars, but it's not death if you're not if it doesn't make sense in my case. So that's the reason why we encourage people to not only just ask questions when they're here on the podcast and or when they're watching in the comments. We also encourage them to get involved within the community as a whole outside of the podcast as well, because that in interaction with people in real time in real life in a manner that's uh can't be duplicated through online. That's where people really see the vision come to life. Like, it's not just something that just lives only within a small community within a small section of the world. No, it's so much bigger than that. And I think, that's what led me to creating this song, Mind Blown, in the first place. And, a lot of my other songs, like, there's a sense of connection and knowing that I know I'm not the only person feeling these thoughts and having these emotions and having this any kind of having this kind of experience. I know I'm not the only artist out there. I'm not the only graphic designer out there. I'm not the only person with a podcast out there. I'm not the only one out there helping others, reach their brand's potential as well. So this is a great example of just showing a little bit more about myself when you listen to the song. So I think with that being said, when it comes down to today's episode of the podcast, choosing between both A and B, when it comes down to me, it's a little bit different than you. However, though, for today's episode of the podcast, I'm going to say I'm going to go with B. Yeah, I'm going to go with B. And I'm going to go with B as far as saying it makes me want to click on it a little bit more because of the fact of there's so much more in the story that I want to know more and hear more and see more. So that natural curiosity is what gives it that extra oomph to me that makes me hit the click button a little bit more quicker than the other. And that's my commentary for today's episode of the podcast. But I want to hear from you. Which one of these two options, my single A or my single B, would you hit click on based off of just the cover alone? Put it down in the comments. Let us know. New or first? Simple as that. All you gotta do is say new or first in the comments, and we'll keep the conversation going from there. At this time, I also want to close off today's episode of the podcast by letting you all know that this single, Mind Blown, uh, with the lyric video, is a bigger piece to the story, which is unraveling before your eyes as we speak. So just look forward to what's coming soon. And I can only say that when you do, I believe your mind will be blown as well. Hey, that's all we got for today's episode of the podcast. But until next time, stay engaged, stay creative, because that's death. And at the end of the day, so are you. Or at least I thought. If you're not, that's all right. That's totally all right. But if you believe like I do, hey, let's take this journey together. Let's collab, sponsor, let's work, let's figure this out. Until next time, here with Def, I'm Dev Dog Devin here at Design Labs. Peace. Oh, and by the way, some new exclusive content is coming to our Patreon members. So you might want to just go ahead and hit that click. Yep, that's right. Go ahead and hit that link. Patreon at Devin's Dev.